All right, are we back? Are we back? That was weird. That was weird. It like totally like shut down that stream. Boom! No stream for us, everybody. No stream. Hey y'all. I double checked. I went back and delved back in the Amazon reports, and indeed, I have sold more East of the Sun and more total books, but more East of the Sun this month than I sold even at launch, which was the previous best. So yay! And without the Facebook ad, I don't think that would be the case. It was close, but I don't think it would be the case. So thank you again, everybody who's left reviews on my book. Because, again, it wouldn't sell if it didn't have reviews. So it's all you guys. And we are still we're doing well. I mean, it's between 5 and 6 sales a day for the last several days. And we have today and tomorrow. I think everything ends, the ad ends on Thursday. Thanks, Mozzie. Yeah, so for those who want to pick up my first book, my first young adult fantasy novel, there are 3 of them now, but the first one is on sale for 99 cents on Kindle, and you can go and pick that up for only 99 cents if you do it before Thursday when the sale ends. I know many of you already have, and you can find my books. The last link on the spam there. Thank you, Quindy. We're going to be painting the little mushrooms. We're going to be highlighting and shading our little mushroom guys down there today. We'll probably figure out a color for the toad. He's probably going to have some browns on him, but I think I'm going to sneak some of this green in because we need another green accent. We have plenty of green on the back because of the vine, but we don't really have anything there except any green other than that. So I wanna maybe put a touch of stuff in there. So yeah. That's pretty awesome, Quindy. You like it, huh? Jury's still out with me. It's definitely unique, and it's definitely like for me, it's an acquired taste, but I'm definitely giving it a chance. Mozzie, this is Reaper Miniatures stream. So Reaper has this as part of their Ghoulie bag, which is a thing they do for October for Halloween. Essentially, if you spend $50 in the U.S. online store, you get a Ghoulie bag mailed to you. It has the smaller version of this mini as well, because this is the big version that was printed just by the sculptor for the ReaperCon. But a smaller version of this mini and free paint and candy. It does. Were you not there when we talked about Iron Brew, Shadow Raven? Like, so many of us ordered it to try it. Like, probably Amazon is confused because suddenly Iron Brew sales had a spike thanks to Kuroniko and all y'all, all that. So, yes. But yeah, so I'm painting the large version because I was at ReaperCon and I saw the big version. I like bigger stuff, so I asked the sculptor, Jason Weeby, if I could steal this one. And Ron said I could paint it on stream, Ron being currently the COO of Reaper, as well as the art director. And he's like, it doesn't matter because it's the same sculpt, it's just a little bigger than the one we're giving away. So yeah. And it will, I think, be up for sale, Mozzie, as well after the holiday, after the... after everything, like after the Ghoulie bags are gone and everything, I do think, like many of our seasonal minis, I think it will go up for sale. Don't quote me on that. Is that Quindy? Do we know about that yet? Right. Yeah. I'm with you on that, Quindy. I think getting the original with all the sugar would be the better. In April? Okay, so yeah, 6 months after the promotion, Reaper will hopefully put this out for sale regularly. He's a cutie. It's a terribly cute sculpt. It's really, really fun. So yeah, but that's where you can get it, Mozzie. So if you hang on, you should be able to get it ordered from Reaper. The Ghoulie bags, of course, are US only. So if you're in Europe, then you're kind of like a sad person. But it should be out eventually, so you should be able to order it. Yes, I think so, Belle. I think it's kind of a little weird. Oh yeah, only pure sugar. Yes, that's what we want. That's what we want for the true Iron Brew experience. All right, so let's mix up some colors, guys. We're going to be using our Driftwood Brown for our shadow color, i.e. base. With things that are very pale, I tend to start with a base and work up. So from there, we're going to work up to a mix of Creamy Ivory and Driftwood, and then up to pure Creamy Ivory. This actually makes a really good kind of softer, more neutral cream color. If you're looking for a triad like that, since Creamy Ivory had its shadow canceled, sadly. Sure, Mozzie, no problem. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. And then maybe we'll mess around with Toad. I guess I should look up Toads online. Toad. Let's look up at pictures of colorful. I want to pick up colorful toads. I don't think there are any colorful toads, but I'm gonna look for colorful toads. Because why not? Oh, there are. Well, those are frogs. Are there colorful toads? Is the number one. No, that's not a toad. Wow. The colors of individual American toads can vary wildly. Common colors include gray, brown, and yellow, but they can also be black, tan, orange, olive, red, or even pink. Okay, so I need to look up olive toad. Alright, so they're not terribly colorful green. Well, that one's pretty green. That one's pretty green. I could go greener like that. That would be like a dark olive with a brighter green under thing. So we might need to, it's a species of toad. So it's a little greener. Toads are just generally not very colorful folks, sadly. But we could push it. We could push it. Jason will forgive us. Yeah. Alright, and they have little pebbly hides. So we'll see. We'll see what we can do. Oh, nice, Cornico. Rainbow Sunset and Red Admiral Butterfly. Nice. You better post those on the Discord, Cornico. Well, that's good to know, Twisted Gnome. I'm glad things are starting to clear up for you. Okay, let's get this Driftwood Brown. I also want a mixture. Remember, I was using a mixture of brown liner and Driftwood also. So let's mix that up too. Let me go back and show you my palette in a second. It's pretty straightforward. Fowler's Toad. Yeah, that's got some brown. There is a green one in there, but I think that's actually a filter because you can see the green in the background. You can see how the background is also green. And so I think that's totally like a function of the lighting. That's not the actual color of the toad. But yeah, it's always kind of a subdued green. But yeah, we'll figure it out. I may have to do it mostly olive with just like some more intense greens down the back. And if we have to go with more of a fantasy brighter toad, we have to. Like, if that's what we want to do, do it. Like I said, you don't have to stick to realism on a cartoon model like this. Like, it's very, very cartoony. So let's put that. Then we're going to do this. Get all our colors. And then we'll just paint some toadstools, dang it. Gotcha, Twistedoma. Yeah, that's gotta be stressful. And of course, stress doesn't help either. That's the double whammy, right? When you have medical crap going on, is that stress harms your body, but when you have medical crap going on, you get stressed. So that it just gets this wicked cycle. I'm talking about eventually painting up the toad. We're not doing it yet. I was just looking up some things so that I can think about how I wanted to do it, Laura. I'm a thinky person, and so essentially I don't do anything just boom out the gate usually. I usually want to think about it a bit. So I'm not actually painting the toad today unless we get through everything else, but I will be, I'll just have it in the back of my head percolating. If you're a thinky person like me, you want to kind of do that. You want to pre-prep yourself. You'll figure out how long it takes you to think about a thing before you settle on it. Now, this is not the same as procrastination, so you really need to figure out if you're just a thinky person or if you're afraid of going forward with something because it won't look good, or you think it won't look good. Alrighty. Shadow. So I'm really going thicker with my paint on this because I'm not interested in like smooth blends or realism so much as I am just getting kind of that cool cartoon pop on him. Though I prefer realism on a lot of my models when I'm painting something so obviously cartoony. This is the exception. And of course, Driftwood Brown doesn't have great coverage, so I am keeping it at 4:1. Though the Creamy Ivory does have good coverage, so I don't have to worry about that as much. So I thinned that a little bit more. Yeah, that's the thing, is that the thinky strengths tend to be, they're looking for certainty. And you might not be able to arrive at certainty just by thinking. In fact, a lot of the time we can't. So that's when you have to lean on a different strength, like you know, something that'll activate you and get you to go. A strength or a habit or a routine, depending on what kind of person you are. Alrighty, let's get this little mushroom guy highlighted. My writing coach had good advice for me yesterday, which is, of course, everything about how to be a more productive writer applies to being a more productive painter as well, because it's the same kind of thing. But before, he had mentioned that he wanted me to prioritize writing right after lunch, and it's because I have a discipline strength, and discipline wants routine. But that doesn't work for me, partially because I'm like, I just like to be more flexible than that. Every day is just like kind of I've got it pre-planned beforehand, what's the most effective use of my time. And writing right after lunch isn't always the most effective use of my time. Plus, when I do sit down to write, I tend to get sucked in for like an hour and a half because of my focus. Which is great, because I get a lot done, but then I don't have time or energy left for anything else, especially the important parts like Patreon, which I have to do because it's my real job. So essentially, I described this to him and I asked him for solutions. And his solution was actually to create a routine that I do right before I sit down to write, and to have a what did he call it? A dead something. But essentially, it's a cutoff time beyond which you won't, like, if I have not written by X time, I will sit down and write. Like, and that's a good painting one too for the evening, right? Like if you paint in the evening after your job, but you find that you easily get like distracted by video games or TV or whatever. Maybe it was a dead switch. I don't remember what the exact term he used was. But essentially, it's if I hit this time and I have not done my painting, then I'm going to stop what I'm doing, pack it up, and do the painting. So for me, and writing, that's about 8 or 8:30 p.m. If I'm going to get any words at all, I have to sit down by 8 or 8:30 and start writing, or I'm going to be too tired to actually do it. Yep. And I may use some red also to rosy up his little cheeks down there on his face once we've got him figured out. This is a little bold, so I think I am going to thin it a little more. This highlight. I'm going to drop a drop of water in there. I can also just glaze to pull everything together. But yeah, so having a cutoff time that you commit to, and you've got to commit. I mean, like, it comes down to it. If you want to be a more productive painter, you've got to commit. It doesn't mean you need to, like, you know, use willpower all the time. Like, if you consider yourself a low willpower person, that's going to be like a recipe for disaster in your head. But you do have to commit and say, this is important to me, and I am going to take steps to figure out how I can implement it in my life, right? This is important. You need to say it's important. No matter what your, family or your 6th grade art teacher or whatever anybody else said about you and creativity, you need to make it an important thing for you. And important doesn't mean life or death. It just means that you're going to prioritize it for your own happiness. God forbid we do that. But you've got to make that commitment. Like, you can't just like la 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 through life. You're just gonna like find out you never really sat down and did what you wanted to do. I mean, maybe it was fun at the time, sure. But once you commit, then you make that dead stop time, that dead switch, where it's like, okay, I can have, my hour of TV after dinner. I can have my hour of video games, maybe even 2 hours of video games. I can, have my hour and a half of finishing up, the stuff I didn't get done the rest of the day. But then I have to sit down. I'm going to sit down because I want to, and I'm going to paint, even if it's only for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. With writing, I can get quite a few words done in 20 or 30 minutes if I'm, like, in the zone. If I know the scene, if I know what the scene is that I'm about to write. So I thinned my paints a little bit more, guys, so I can smooth things out. And I'm continuing to go over like my top highlight with my mid highlight to blend it in, because the top highlight is higher coverage because it has, Creamy Ivory has a lot of white in it. But yeah, so the other thing that Terry said to do is to assign like a ritual to writing. This is something you can also do with painting. So for me, my ritual for writing used to be just, okay, go use the restroom so I'm not, interrupted by that. Make sure that I have a fresh drink. Make some tea if I want tea, or make sure that I've got another drink if that's what I want. Sit down, light a candle, and open the document. So it doesn't have to be an elaborate ritual. It just has to be something you are going to consistently do every time you sit down to paint. And it works better if you do it more frequently. So if you can do it at least 3 times a week. But if you do this consistently, you get to the point where starting your ritual is a sign to your brain, your subconscious brain, that this is when we're going to sit down to write or to paint. And then when you start that ritual, you will mysteriously get in the mood to do that thing. Because your brain is like, oh, this is when we do this. So essentially, it's a way to life hack your subconscious. But you have to commit to it for the first couple weeks, I would say. Luckily, most of the steps in my ritual are things I would do anyway before starting something that might take me, an hour and a half of time. I got in the habit of doing the candle thing because I used to write a lot at night when I was younger. But these days, I write a lot better if I do it earlier. How's it going, Inara? We need to get him focused down here. Okay. Feel like we're still a little. I feel like if it can see my background, it's always focusing on my background. There we go. But yeah, so creating a little ritual, even if it's not very ritualistic, before you begin painting. Maybe you hit the bathroom, get yourself a drink, put your headphones on maybe. Like if you're going to stream some podcast or music or whatever you do when you're painting. If you do it socially and get online and go to a Discord group to paint, then maybe that's part of your ritual, is firing up the computer, go into the group. And you know what? Even if there's nobody there at the group, you still paint. Good, Inara, good. Glad you're still on your feet. But yeah, that's all it takes to be a ritual. And then the key part is after you do X, Y, and Z, then you begin to paint. And if you feel resistance to it, then just tell yourself, I'm just going to sit down and base coat something for 10 minutes. Now, one thing I do find, sometimes prepping will work, but sometimes it won't for me. So if I'm actively prepping a model that I know I'm going to start painting right after I finish prepping it, then prepping will work for me this way, like prep work. Otherwise, though, prep work can become busy work that leads to me not actually painting anything. So you kind of got to look at yourself and assess what it is for you. Or if, like me, you have specific, times when it's valid and times when it's not. Boop. Nice enough. Yeah, because when you have, it doesn't matter, there's no doing it wrong, Val. Stop thinking there's doing it wrong. There is no doing it wrong. There's just doing it the way you're going to do it. It doesn't matter. There are as many ways to paint a freaking mushroom man as there are painters. None of it is wrong. Doesn't matter. No wrong. There is no wrong. If you are painting, you are doing it right. That's your perfectionism talking, and your perfectionism is a fear mechanism. Understand that it is not your friend. It is not actually trying to make you better. It is just trying to stop you from getting anywhere. Because it's safe to be in the area where you're not risking anything. If I had listened to my perfectionism, I would never have finished 3 novels. I would still be working on the first one, convinced I wasn't as good as it needed to be. I hate to be harsh like that, but like perfectionism became my archenemy. I used to love that I was a perfectionist. I used to be like, I'm a perfectionist, and I thought it was a good thing. Then I started really looking at it and realized that it really just stopped me from doing everything I cared about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can start at the midtone, and it's okay. You can start at the bottom, and it's okay. Every painter does it differently. Some painters will be starting more light and putting, like a starting wash or shading tone over it, and then they would go up. Some painters would wet blend the whole thing, so they're doing the bottom and the mid and the highlight at the same time. I start dark and work light because I have found that my shadows aren't dark enough if I don't. But doesn't make it wrong or right. What works is what works for you. And the only way you find out what works for you is to try it different ways and to look at the result and assess it. There is no wrong, there is no right. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Yeah, same with writing time, Inara. You can't let the self-doubt win. Like, my last book, I started writing it from the middle. Which is totally, like, not something that I'd ever done before that my strengths really should support normally. But I did it, and you know what? It worked. And so, if I get into the same problem, I'm going to do that again. But it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't. All that matters is your results. Like, process is something you arrive at after, like, shooting a bunch of, like, darts at a wall. But it doesn't matter, like, what anybody else does, because they're not you. I mean, you can go out there, Val, witness this. You can go out there and you can find somebody who tells you always paint up from the shadow. And then you'll find the other person who says, no, always start with the mid and then paint down and up. And they'll both be great painters and they'll both be get amazing results. But all that matters is what you get. For me, I switch it up. If I'm trying to bring up a light color, I will start at the shadow. Because I know from experience that if I don't, I won't make my shadows dark enough, or I will struggle to make my shadows dark enough. And it doesn't feel as satisfying for me to do that. Whereas if I start with the shadow, I tend to keep it, and then I've got the right amount of contrast. But that is only me. And other people will not have that same kind of dysfunction in their painting that they'll have to cover. Like, I always have had troubles with shadows, in my 2D art even. So it's no surprise that I also have that problem in my 3D art. But in order to recognize that, I had to do a lot of experimentation. Which means you've just got to do it. And if it doesn't turn out great, I mean, if that means you have to grab a bunch of basic orcs or get a basic GW box set of some, like, unit that's not too fiddly bits and just, paint them all different ways just to figure out, like, how you work, like, it's not a bad exercise. Or take a bunch of Bones models from past Kickstarters and do it. Experiment. It's not time wasting. It's actually validly figuring out what works for you. And you know what? What's even worse is once you dial it in, it'll change. Once you dial it in, you'll find that 2 years down the road, you switch it up. And now something else is your best process. And that's just because you're progressing as a painter. Maybe you learned how to, like, eyeball shadows better. And you're also going to find, if you stream like me, you're going to find out that you might get different results. If you're streaming or teaching in front of people or painting in front of people as opposed to painting by yourself. James Gurney was just talking about this in one of his Substack posts, because for him, he says it's a left brain, right brain thing. When I'm on stream, I'm teaching, right? And so I'm engaging a different part of my brain, essentially. And that's why, although I can paint well when I'm on stream, I can't paint to my top competition level on stream, because I need to shut off the right side of my brain and pull only from the left to be, to be more creative, to be more top of my form. I decided halfway through that I wanted to use lining to emphasize some of this. And again, it's not wrong. I wasn't planning to do it that way, but then I did that lined shadow there, and I thought, I kind of like that. And so I went with it, because it's working. I'll do the same on faces. I'll do the shadow of the skin tone, I'll do all the highlights, but then I'll take the blush color, which is a little darker, and I'll just put a little bit in. So there you go. But that's just in the moment. You make that call. Or you try it and you see if it works. If I tried it and it didn't work, wouldn't have done it. But guess what? It's giving me more that accentuated contrast and more that cartoon look. So I'm going to use it. I find that for me, I must just, especially on stream, I have to just paint in the moment. Because I'm talking to you guys, I'm explaining stuff, that immediately takes me out of painter mode. And then I have to go back into painter mode. But sometimes, talking to you guys, and this is why I love streaming. Here's a secret, guys. When I'm talking to you, because I'm kind of on autopilot, sometimes I will make decisions like putting that extra shadow on the mushroom face that will work. And then I will learn, hey, I did it just autopilot because I wasn't thinking about it. Something in my brain said, it'll look better if you do this. So I follow it without overthinking it. And then I learned that I can do that. So streaming, although it never results in my best work, will sometimes free me up to make snap decisions or try something, because since I'm talking to you guys, I'm just kind of autopiloting this. I'm autopilot painting. And I'm not thinking, right? I'm not overthinking. Nothing is stopping me from just doing instinctually what I see. Right. Yes. And Quindy, that's exactly what I'm describing here, is back and forth, push and pull. You try things, they don't work. You try things again, they work. And sometimes it'll be frustrating because it won't be consistent. It'll just depend on the model. It depends on the colors you're using. Sometimes it depends on your freaking mood. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. For sure, and I doubt that. Well, who knows? Maybe Jason did choose to use that particular style of face. For me, it just looks like, like that classical kind of face you tend to see on classical illustrations of the sun and the moon, and it's a fairy tale face. I like it. Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. Now that I've seen that I like that shadow, I'm going to do more up here, right? I'm going to bring it in. But just because I say this is my process doesn't mean I can't immediately change up that process if I feel like it's working better. I do not paint by number. I don't have a rote thing that I follow every time. I find that I paint better if I'm wild. If I don't limit myself. If I just I start at that certain point every time. So with a light skin tone or a light color, I'll start at that darker point. But maybe, then I want to depart from it. And I'll let myself. I'm not going to lecture myself that it's not my process. Screw that. The best I can do is describe to you what I'm doing as I'm doing it, why I'm making the decisions I am. Right? That's the best anybody can do as an artist. We can't let you into our heads. We can't let you see the inner workings of the brain. I can explain why I deviate from the process I just explained to you. That's the best I can do. But I'm not going to like stop myself from deviating just because I just explained a process to you that then I immediately like did an extra bit of, I changed it up. What that should show you more than anything is that there really is no one right way. Even though I've done tons of this and I I've painted hundreds of models, maybe thousands at this point. But I still switch it up based on, and a lot of times, you know what? It is my mood. If I'm feeling whimsical or I'm just feeling screw it. I'm just going to try stuff and see if it sticks to the wall. And really, with you, Val, especially, you're an above average painter already, right? So the thing is, stop getting in your way. No matter what you do, the model's going to look okay. Or, if it doesn't look okay at the gate, you have the skills to fix it. But you got to stop getting in your way. Right? I've seen great work from you. I know you know technique. It's not like you're a beginner babe in the woods. So, then it's just down to the mental, right? It's down to the mental. Maybe you need to tell Jason he needs to sculpt more. More things based on it. Actually, wasn't somebody doing something like that style? Something in my brain says I've seen this style on miniatures before. But the point here is you can do whatever you like. You can paint it however you like. There are no wrong answers. There is only the wrong answer, if you're trying to force yourself to do something a certain way because that's the way it's done. But it's not working on the model, but you keep forcing it because you think that's the way it's done. That's the wrong answer. That's the only wrong answer there is. And even then, you might end up with an okay result. You just won't end up with a great result. But your art is between, you and the mini. Nobody else should tell you how to paint. Here. So what I'm doing here and why I'm adding in the shadows is punching up the contrast is working for me. Well, then that's something you have to work on in your head. None of us can fix that for you. The best we can do is tell you, that you're a good painter. You're certainly better than half the painters on the planet. I would put your skill rating at probably, at this point, maybe a 75%. You're high intermediate. At times you hit the advanced level. But you're erratic, right? Because you keep switching stuff up. If I were you, I would actually make a consistent path just to test everything in one path out to the limits. But you gotta stop changing all the things. When you're changing paint lines, if you change that up too much, you're just gonna impair your own ability to internalize how paint acts, things like that. But if you don't believe it when people give you a compliment, dude, that's all you. That's mental work that you need to do if you care. Some people don't wanna. If you don't wanna, great. But then you're gonna be where you are, right? That's your mind space that you've gotta come to terms with. I'm freaking 52, and even now I'm still making discoveries about how my brain has been undermining me for the last, 50 years of my life. So, it ain't easy. And it certainly feels humbling and embarrassing. But, So I'm just going to block in. lights and shadows here. Now back here, I'm not going to be doing that extra shading much. Maybe down near the bottom where there'd be like dirt and stuff on the stem of the mushroom. I'll do a little bit of that extra shading there, but mostly I want to bring out that face. So that's why the face has extra shading. Where this is more like what I said I was going to do. It's just basic highlights and shading. Yeah. But yeah, everybody's got a self-critic. Some of us just allow our critic more reign than others. I let my critic out when I've finished the majority of the model and I want feedback on making things better. But it took a lot of practice to be able to shove my inner critic into a box too, right? That's why I say it's something you got to work on with your. Everybody's got to work on it their own mental. Everybody's got to work on it their own way, or not, because there are plenty of people out there who's just like, you know what, I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I'll just deal with it, and that's fine. But at some point, it's you getting in your own way, and no advice I can give you on this stream is going to fix that. Oh, yeah, like the Labyrinth City Goblins. Yeah, that's cool. Hey, Richard, it's going good. I went back and looked up all my data, and it turns out that I have actually sold more books, more copies of East of the Sun this month than I ever have, including at launch. And at launch, it was like all my friends and family gobbling stuff up, right? So, whereas now, it's not. It's all like new people, new to the series. They're still gobbling it up because it's on sale, so we'll see how many of them actually read it, but still. So we can see that when I'm not adding all of the contrast, when I'm doing more of what I would set out to said that I was going to do in the beginning, you get a much softer look, right? Which fits the smoother skin of the mushrooms back here. You know, there's not a lot of texture. I'm going to give them about 6 months to become fans, Richard. This is a long game. Maybe even more. There are people, there are books I buy that I actually don't get to reading until more than a year later, right? Because I kind of always keep a backlog of books in case I'm going to go on vacation and be on a plane for 4 hours or more. So I expect many of these people won't read the book right away. But it's still great. It's still on their Kindle devices. So eventually they may be fans. Sunny is pushing it, yeah. There was a Moonstone Kickstarter. I knew I'd seen them. I knew I'd seen a style like this. So, do you guys get why we accentuate contrast here, maybe we decentuate a little bit back here? But if I want to raise this up a little bit more, I can raise my highlights up a little bit more. So, extend. And doing linear highlights, I don't have room to do a cross here, really. Sometimes you've got very narrow surfaces, so you can't do the ideal brushstroke for blending in. But if we can bring up that, then we can get a much softer, more blended look. I'm spending a little extra time on this mushroom because he's the most cool. The others are very basic. There we go. So that looks great. And that's nice too. So I'm going to put a little bit more on the underside here because the underside of the cap should be a little lighter. Kiki, that's a no bark. There's nobody out there. Just us chickens. So bring up just a little bit here on the edges. Reflected light. Yeah, that's Texas though. Like that back and forth crap where it varies by 30 or 40 degrees. That's what killed all my bonsai trees. It was like 80 one day and 40 the next. The poor trees got shocked. They couldn't handle it. I made David go to the bonsai museum with me, which he liked, but I haven't decided to get back into bonsai. There we go. There we go. Quindy with the links. Quindy has found them for you all. If you want to paint stuff in that style, go follow her link. Today is a writing day. And I have to remember to go and get my kitchen knives sharpened because they're very sad right now. I kind of feel very guilty. I haven't been doing a lot of real cooking this summer because it's more of David's season because we grill a lot in the summer. And my knives have gotten they really need a sharpen. Right now I am all those people I used to like sneer at who had great knives but they were dull. I like have we have 2 chef knives and I'm like the one chef knife that I'm still using is like starting to like give me the side eye. And say, when are you gonna sharpen us? Wow. Deep dive, Quindy. The moon was really pretty last night. I went for my walk. Oh, hey guys, I've been like, because I'm just like that silly and petulant, I have decided to speed walk my 5K because I have to walk it, right, instead of run it. It's next month. It's about a month from now. It's just a little less than a month from now. And, so I decided I was going to if I had to walk it, I was going to speed walk it. So last night, I walked a 5K in 52:55. I originally ran a 5K in 45:44. We are closing the gap, folks. The speed walking training is working. It's kind of amazing. There we go. So we got some nice highlights there. So now I just need, if I get below 50, if I can get walk a 5K in below 50 minutes, I'm going to be super happy. Like by the time that 5K comes. Even better if I manage to beat my previous running time. I'm going to get pure brown liner here because I want to accentuate that line between the top and the bottom. But yeah, it's funny. The faster you walk, the slower it feels. Like, the more you concentrate on it. I would have to hit I would have to hit 4 miles per hour steady. I can do 4 miles per hour in short bursts right now. So I'm kind of like training speed intervals. And my new shoe inserts came, so I'm going to be trying those out and reporting on if they work or not. They're made to strengthen your feet instead of to just support them. Which is supposed to solve a whole host of foot pain and knee pain issues, sometimes even lower back pain, because it supposedly helps your posture to have stronger feet, which I could see. All right, let's do the spots on top of this guy. Proper painting. Oh, thinning your paints and everything. Wow. Cool, Richard. Yeah, well, whatever you feel like, right? And you could probably do both. You might be able to sit down and do it like an hour painting on your characters and then a half hour on the stuff. It all depends on, like, if you like to do things in big blocks, like if you have one task per evening, right, so that you can get it all done. I have to sit down tonight and finish a web page for the dog, the new website, the new Shiloh Shepherd site, because the deadline's tomorrow. So these spots are big enough. A lot of the spots on the smaller mushrooms are not big enough to really shade or highlight. So that's the first level, and then we'll bring up the next level. I think we're going to be back on Lava Dragon this Saturday on my stream. Because I want Lava Dragon to be done so that I can do Fairy Dragon. Yeah, as deadlines. Yeah, you can try to make them yourself, but sometimes that doesn't work. It's never quite as punchy as having somebody else like forcing you a deadline, like having committed to a game. But then I kind of like that. I don't necessarily like being under pressure all the time. Right now I've got my Patreon dialed in so that I can get everything done, and there's just enough pressure to get everything done, but I still am pretty relaxed about it, which is about perfect. So I don't sleep as well if I'm stressed. That's true. Challenge League. Challenge League is good for deadlines. I've almost lost all the weight from all the weight I gained from all the traveling I did this fall, which is nice. Being at home and in my routine helps with weight loss so much. There we go. We have some nice mushroomy spots. There. Let's back up and look at that. So yeah, that's good. Like, it's not as stark, And so it's actually not pulling attention. Like Batty still is the main source of attention. This guy is just kind of down there. So that's actually perfect. Like it's there and you can see it when your eye travels around the piece, but it's not pulling attention away from the bat. Oh yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't do Challenge League. You might be able to analyze why that happens, Kuro. Although with me, like, if I compare it to the way that I do NaNoWriMo, it's that I have to make a serious commitment to do Nano at the beginning, and I need to remind myself and refresh that commitment, like, every few days. Just have kind of a sit down meeting with myself going, we committed to this because it was important to us, and we're not going to fall through on it. With all the voices in my head. And there's always going to be a dissenting voice in there going, but we could do X or Y. But you have to just have the rest of your voices kind of stare that voice down. Because there's always going to be a voice that tries to make excuses about why it's better to abandon your commitment. Usually those voices don't like pressure. And sticking to a commitment is a very subtle sort of pressure. Hey there, Blades. But yeah, understand that any given voice in your head is not you. It's just one small little piece of you. My Coach Terry, calls them the toddlers in his head. Because when they don't get what they want, they tend to scream and throw a fit. And it's important to realize that that is not actually you screaming and throwing a fit. It's just one little part of your brain. But they are just like toddlers. Yep, rationalization. Especially if you got like a lot of stuff where other people depend on you and you like to help other people and you get energy from helping other people, right? Or you're communicating with other people, or you're used to like having other people depend on you to get things done, or any of those things, it becomes very easy to rationalize. There was a lady on my coaching call yesterday who had been unemployed for the last like year or more. So the downside was that she was unemployed and she was really stressed about money. The upside was that she got to go to all of the little like writing conventions that she wanted, right? She didn't have any job to get off from. She, chose to allocate some of her limited resources to do that. So she felt like she was going to all these writing conferences and she was so happy. So then she finally got a new job, which was a huge relief to her in her, like in the money situation and the general life situation. But now she probably can't go to this convention that's coming up that she really wanted to go to because her friends are going. She had already told a friend that she would share a room with them, and she was essentially using that promise to the friend, even though it's 6 months out and she could easily cancel at this point. Her friend could find somebody else. But she was using that promise to her friend to rationalize why she should go, even though she really shouldn't go. Because essentially it would use up all her paid time off and she wouldn't have any left for getting sick and stuff and other stuff, which would stress her out. So, like, rationalization is a real thing. Like, part of your brain will try to convince you that because part of you wants a thing, you will try to rationalize how to get it. Even if it's not in your best interest. Yeah, there's always a ton of stuff that's more important than little plastic toys. It's true. Cornico. But yeah, so like, it was totally just the rationalization voice trying to say, it'll be fine. You can use all your vacation time. You promised. That kind of thing. But it's really a toddler. It is that toddler in your head going, you promised. We don't like to do the responsible thing. Or sometimes it works because it is the responsible thing, right? And you're able to put off stuff that quote unquote isn't as important, like painting small plastic toys, as you point out there in the chat. Because you're like, well, there's more important stuff to do. Except then there's always, quote, more important stuff to do, and you never get to do what you love doing. So it's a balance, right? It's always that weird balance. So these are very simple mushroom stalks over here. All of the littler mushroom stalks are very, very simple. So probably I'll be like using a little bit of stippling or textured stroke to bring out a little bit of detail on these guys, just so it's more like this guy. Hey, Quindy. And some of the underside of these mushrooms aren't textured at all like the big guy. They're just smooth. So we can choose to freehand texture on them, or we can just kind of leave them shadowed. That's up to you and how much work you want to put in. I'll probably put a simple basic texture stroke on them. Yeah, I mean, basic survival is not like rationalization at that point. It's must do, right? I don't have the new ones yet. Mine are being shipped as we speak. I ordered the new colors, so we'll be doing. I'll probably be doing a thing on them for my Patreon, and we'll also be playing with a couple of them on stream once they come. I should be getting mine. I think it's supposed to come tomorrow or Thursday. I think Thursday was the original shipping thing. So, because when I thin the driftwood, it just doesn't have a great coverage, I'll have to put another layer on top of these guys. Unless I'm going to use the fact that the black is showing through as a shading effect, right? Hi, Kiki. Hello, Keekers. We stopped giving her the anti-inflammatories, and her lower back is still twingy enough that she doesn't like to jump up on my lap right now. So there's no lap, Kiki. Sorry, guys. Yeah, the Keekers. Hi, Keekers. Keekers woke me up this morning when I really just wanted to sleep a little more. Yeah, you did. You were an alarm dog. David snoozed twice, and after the second snooze, she came up and I heard this licking noise, and he's like, thanks, Kiki. She licked him awake after he tried to snooze on his second alarm. she's turning into a good alarm dog, because after his, like, she'll settle through one snooze, right? If he snoozes the first time and doesn't move after that, she'll stay on the floor. But after the second snooze, she'll get up and she'll lick his face to wake up. Which is good, because with all the physical therapy exercises, since I have to do PT exercises morning and night, I don't have, like, if he doesn't get up on time, and thus I don't, I get up late, I don't have nearly enough time to do everything I need to do before stream. Or I feel really tight because I have to rush everything. Which I don't like. Nice. I still just have my drawer. Essentially, I'll get those paints out. We'll play with a few of them. I'll decide about their utility, and then whether they stay in my drawer here by me or they get put in the closet will be entirely due to that. These days, I decide everything based on utility. Like, is this going to be a good base color for something like core? Or, is it a great shading color that I'd want to use for a lot of stuff? Or, does it replace? Is it a better version? Did you just open my drawer, you dingo? Is it a better version of something else I already have, Kiki? Oh, somebody wants the Scruffles. You want the Scruffles. Yes, I know. I'm thinking about going through my closet paints and just, like, I really have to, like, just ask myself some hard questions. I don't touch most of them, and I don't want to have to shake all of them like every other year. Hi there, Keekers. Really, if it's not in my drawer next to me, I can usually mix it, or it's a color I just never would use. Right, Keeks? Right, Kiki? Oh, thanks for the lickins. Thanks for the lickins, good girl. There, I got kisses. He's a good girl. All right, Bubba, go settle. Go settle. Still work. We have another 20 minutes. No, they almost always go into the range. I think they always do go into the range, at least up until, like, they did as of, when I left. Because, they have actual item numbers. If you see the item numbers of Kickstarter paints change more to the 2.9 or another range, then it's question mark. But as long as it's still in the 9, 9.3, 9, I guess 9.3s. Yeah, pretty much the Kickstarter just becomes an excuse then to try out some new colors, to develop some new colors and see how they do. But that said, if they do cancellations, those new colors may be up for not continuing, depending on sales. Oh, that reminds me, I need to touch base with Ron on that. Hey there, Kiki. Yeah, you gotta settle. It's not time yet. So I'm just doing some textured brush strokes to try to get these a little bit more irregular. The glosses, to me, have very limited application. They're good for novelty. They're good for, like, things like your gelatinous cube and your translucent miniatures. They're good for painting translucent minis. Or for adding, tints to clear ones. Otherwise, they don't seem very utilitarian to me. They've got their uses. Nice, guys. So again, gonna do just a little bit of texture here. Painted down texture. Because otherwise these surfaces are smooth. But I want them to look like they're textured. I've been trying to slim down on my paint. I find that I do better with fewer colors than more. But I am a weirdo. Probably not. Most plastic isn't Twistoma, despite what they tell us. Yeah. Well, I've been getting stuff from other ranges lately to test out, but that's partially for, you know, that's for the Patreon too. Yeah, see, I use very few of my paints. I only pick up new paint sets if I'm like really interested in like the way they function, like the cuttlefish stuff. Otherwise, I'm pretty much limiting myself to like Chimera and Scale Color these days, as far as extra paints like outside of Reaper. Trying to get this area back here painted, and then we'll be pretty good. I need to decide what to do on these little undercaps. Yeah, I like having choices because the thing is, you could mix everything with 25 paints, but there are some colors that are just so hard to mix consistently because they're persnickety that I always keep those. Like trying to mix driftwood. Driftwood has a lot of different colors in it, and it's like pretty delicately balanced between the brown and the black pigment and this yellowish base. So it's actually a pretty hard color to mix. Could you mix something close to it? Yes, but it depends on if you need close or if you need exact. So I'm going to freehand some mushroom struts here on the underside of these. I want to vary the thinness or thickness of them. Yeah, I just reorder colors I run out of with the Reaper usually. Unless there's a color that I see that I really want to take a closer look at. I kind of wish that Reaper would put together a mixing set. Like if I were still at Reaper, I'd be pushing Ron to put out a mixing set in the pistol cases with the oxides, the clear brights, lantern yellow, black and white, and maybe some sealer. Just to get more consciousness out there about the oxides. Yeah, scale color is difficult just because it's tube paint, right? But it does do better on a wet palette because of its thickness. But it still, it won't thin to do like the smooth blending nearly like MSP will. But that's why I always use it mixed in. Like, I always, when I use these other paint lines, I'm always mixing them with MSP. Because I get better results that way. But I love some of the colors in scale color just to the exclusion of common sense. Thus my 4 bottles or 4 tubes of burnt umber right now. I even stole David's. He never uses it. He doesn't need it. It's mine now. That's because high coverage lines are just gonna, depending on the base, but high coverage lines are just, they're formulated for that. That's what they're gonna give you. So every other application you're gonna fight. The minute you try to thin them, you're gonna fight because they want to do coverage. It's a thing. And I don't want to fight that hard. So I just switched to MSP for layering. I use just a tiny bit of the other paint that I used for a base color. And then I'll do everything else with MSP. Oh, I don't do that. No, Scale Color Artist is the only scale color line that I like. The tube paint is the only one that I use. I actually don't like their bottle paints very much at all. I used some of them when I was painting for Dark Sword commissions, and I was not a fan. Very plasticky look. Very vinyl. But yeah, to each their own. But yeah, when I talk about scale color, I'm talking about the tube paint. Scale Color Artist. Yeah. Well, that was true even with like P3. Like, I had some real issues with some P3 with separation and stuff and just finish being very variable. But every once in a while, you'd find a P3 color that was really good. But that's a line that was made, like, it was made for a very specific purpose. It was made for wet blending, so the separation isn't necessarily a factor if you're using it for wet blend. So it's made to work with their 2-brush blending style, right? Which is essentially wet blending, wet into wet. Yes, it was thick because it was made for wet blending. And that's where, like, sometimes you have to, like, reverse engineer, like, kind of figure out the paint's purpose. And it's difficult to do that unless there's somebody like me telling you what the purpose of MSP is. Or in the case of P3, the fact that they pioneered that two-brush blending style told you that they were doing a lot of work with wet into wet blending, in which case thicker paint was an asset. So a lot of people really like the smooth creaminess of it, but you gotta like be aware like that it's meant to be used that way, right? And now they're relaunching it, right? That other company is relaunching the line with a different finish, so we'll see how it compares, I guess. Didn't quite get that. Need to thin down my thinner stuff. There we go. Well, there. We give a little bit of texture. Let's get over here. We're almost done. I'm going to do real quick on these. I mean, I'm not surprised if they're copying Reaper, but Reaper's unique. They also kept trying to get Ed to let them make our paint. So if they're trying actively, when they're trying actively for like a decade to get Ed to agree to let them make Master Series, you know they've already figured out like a base that's similar to MSP, so why not use it? But no, I'm not going to try Vallejo's product. They offended me many years ago. They offended me for years by trying to get like, and whenever Ed came back from Gamma, he's like, "Yep, Vallejo tried to get us to make, let them make the paint line again." And I'm like, "Are they trying to put me out of a job?" I took a joke personally. I told Ed to take me to Gamma so that next time they walked up to do that, I could say, "Are you actually trying to like put me out of a job?" Just to totally guilt them. Not that they would care with their, big art company. But yes, so I won't buy Vallejo going forward. Plus I have no need for them. I already have MSP. And if their new paints are more MSP like, then the only thing they can possibly give me is new colors, and I can mix anything I want. But they likely use the same sort of pigments we do. Except maybe, I know they have some, they were using cadmiums, but I don't know that they do anymore. So maybe I could get some MSP that's made with cadmium pigments. But I don't know that I really need that. I'm past the days where I'll just pick up something just because it's new. It has to offer me something. AK took a bite out of them because Vallejo was having supply issues for a while, is my guess. And AK started upping their marketing and got a bunch of European painters on board to help them market. I think Vallejo got a little complacent at some point too. There's also the fact that they're not run like old Mr. Vallejo, who started the company. He retired several years back. So essentially their version of Anne retired, leaving the company in the hands of younger people in the family who don't care about it as much, is the way it was told to me. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just the way it was described. So when you've got, people then at the helm who aren't as proactive in developing and promoting, then then a company that's hungry, like AK, suddenly decided it had a market it could get into, right, with the fantasy painters. Then the company that's hungry and pushing the envelope and trying to do outreach is going to win over the complacent company that's run by people that maybe just want to collect a paycheck. That's just the way of the world. And if AK's paints are superior, then that means they listened, right? That's the thing. That's actually why I like Scale 75, is like, even if I don't like their bottle paints, but the tube paints, like, they've responded to feedback, right? They're listening when people talk about their line. Just like Reaper, I listen when you guys talk. When I was in charge, I would listen all the time to what people said about my paint line, even if it was negative, especially if it was negative, to see if it was something that could be addressed, right? Without changing the direction of the line. Now, of course, I'm no longer in that boat, but yeah, so they're probably using a hybrid base for the new Vallejo. But again, I don't care about coverage, so for me, if I want coverage, like, I have all those cuttlefish colors I can mix into my MSPs now if I need a little extra coverage. But most of the time, I could give two figs about coverage. MSP and Chimera and Scale Color Artists, they cover well enough for me. Yes, it's always in opinion. Anybody who gives an opinion about a paint line on this stream, like, that's the way that they work with it. They don't paint like you, so. Because we don't have the actual chemistry information for any of these lines, the best we can do is kind of deconstruct them based on usage. But every painter uses paint differently. So comparing, like, two people in chat, comparing the same line and coming to different conclusions, is most likely due to those two painters' working styles and methodology being different. So always remember that, like, when it's in, like, even when, like somebody is maybe insulting your favorite line in the chat, like, it's just their opinion, and that opinion is based only on the way they work. And if you find success with the way that you work with a given line, then that's all that matters. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's all that's important, really. Like, if different paint lines didn't work for different people, we wouldn't have all these wonderful different paint lines to work with. Like, I'm glad, even though I don't work with a lot of them, even though a lot of them are built for coverage, and I'm like, I don't need to go into that, right? But even so, I'm glad that the options are out there because, again, everybody works differently. Like, people who start with a wet blend base coat are going to want those thicker, creamier lines, right, that I don't touch. So, and they're going to want the coverage, right? People who do sketch style are going to want, like, that thinability in coverage. It's all different paint styles want different paint consistencies and, like, different brushwork, and as you develop your style and you work with different techniques, you're going to gravitate towards certain paint lines, and those aren't going to be the same paint lines that other people use. So it's all good. Oh, they're not gonna. Yeah, nobody manufactures stuff themselves except Vallejo and us. And Vallejo's a paint company, not a miniatures company. I like some Green Stuff World stuff, but I haven't tried their paint line. They would have to like it. Somebody would have to tell me why it's different, because I'm always looking for different. Yeah, and that's why there's no right way or wrong way to paint. It's all subjective, exactly. Inara is like on the nose, boop, perfect, exactly, Inara. Yeah, it's just like there's no good or bad, there's no wrong or right. There's only the way that works for you, and to get to that, you've just got to figure it out. And that just means painting. And that shouldn't be a downside because painting is fun. And even, I mean, I am not blending this guy. Like, I am block painting, I'm leaving a lot of brush strokes, but he still looks great. Like, some models are just going to look good. Like, you just need to put, like, a decent paint job on them, and you're good. So we still have, speaking of, we're going to continue painting this guy this week. I think I'm going to, I'm going to think on the toad. I might try to do a mix of the brown up here and the green and see if I can get 2-color toad. Maybe we'll do toad tomorrow. I kind of like that idea. Because remember, I like to repeat colors. So if I can use this green and use this brown and make mixes of it, but leave a little bit of the original of both, then the toad will work. The challenge is finding a color to paint the toad that I like that is going to work with the rest of the miniature at this point. Right? Because I don't want to just whip out some strange olive green that we haven't used. So if I do use an olive on him, I'm going to use this green mixed with this brown to create that olive. So yeah. Okay, peeps, it's time for Kiki to get her walk. She's been very impatient this morning, so I'm going to let you go. We will be back tomorrow with Toad. Toad. Hi, Toad. That's what I used to say when Kiri would say hi to the toads in Texas. It would be, hi, Toad. There were a lot of them. But yeah. Ah, they were shiny, but reformulated ones seem better. Yeah, and that's nice when a company listens to feedback and people are like, we don't like the shininess. That's why I'm dubious about the new P3, because they're supposed to be a little more satin, and I'm like, that's not a bonus. So yeah. Okay. All right, Inara. Take care. I hope you feel better soon. I hope they get a handle on your stuff. I'm so sorry you're going through all that. It sucks. Health issues that won't go away suck, and I know that as somebody who did 3 years of it, so... yeah. All right. But fingers crossed. Much love to all of you. Quindy, thank you for riding herd on the chat. As always, Kerniko for being her backup. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. Oh, wait. Where's my button? Where's my button? Okay, now bye-bye.